you may know Bernice or Jack. So we got this message now. So say got it. I guess you can say got it or leave meeting. You don't want to be reported, leave. Anyway, we're giving away $25,000 in cash awards and other in-kind awards for great new ideas for products that we can make here in Connecticut. And that is one of the few criteria. It has to be something we can make here in Connecticut. We're trying to build up, not only help the innovators, but help Connecticut manufacturing industry to expand. So if you know of anybody, please spread the word. I put a link in chat where you can access a downloadable application. But there's extra points if you've gone the extra mile and have identified a Connecticut manufacturer and talk to them. And we've got to bring people together like that. So we might as well encourage it from the get-go. So the applications are due April 13. If you can help get the word out, I would appreciate it. I'll send you guys some literature. I'll send it to you, Doug, if you can, post a notice on the Inventus website, that would help too. Any questions about that? Good. Okay. What's to ask? $25,000, we got a good idea. So our program today revolves around sort of the same end goal, connecting innovators with the organizations and companies that can exploit those new ideas, those new discoveries with their marketing and manufacturing clout. So we have three speakers for you today. Bernice Zampano from Constep, Jack Crane from Constep, and Adam Rodriguez from Forge, Connecticut, which is sort of brand new to Connecticut. They've been operating in Massachusetts for a number of years. So I hope you fill us in on that when it's your turn to speak. Our first speaker in the triad here, Bernice Zampano. She's a program manager for Connex, Connecticut, which is a supply chain database run by Constep. Bernice's background includes program responsibilities for the Manufacturing Innovation Fund, Incumbent Worker Training Program, and Equal Opportunity Efforts. And I see that you are ready to go, Bernice, so take it away. And by the way, if you have a question, rather than blurt it out, put it in chat. And then after Bernice goes through her slides, we'll go through those chat questions. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. As Mike had mentioned, I have had experience working with manufacturers with the Incumbent Worker Training program through the Department of Labor. So my Constep career that is 3 weeks old is really my dream job encore career. So I'm very excited to be here to work with manufacturers and to do the connections, connect Connecticut, and work together and how, as you said before, kind of put all these people together so we're not siloed or island all by ourselves. Connects Connecticut is part of a national chain platform and is part of the Connects Marketplace. It was developed in Utah by a company called I5 Services, and they have manufacturing solutions, and they have already done it in several states. So the Connects Connecticut is going to be free to Connecticut manufacturers due to the generous sponsorship of the Chief Manufacturing Officer for 2 years. Although we are having a promotion right now that I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, is that if manufacturers sign up within 2 months, then they will have the link to the national network as well. So Connects Connecticut is licensed to and administered by Constep, and Jack is going to talk a little bit more about Constep later on, But just a little brief overview, the mission is to help small and medium-sized manufacturers and businesses to reach goals, strengthen their strategic and technology, as well as operational expertise, and, you know, hoping to support the growth of Connecticut. Some of the things that Concept does, Jack will get into this a little bit more, is business growth, continuous improvement, you know, working on manufacturers, cybersecurity, and technology and industry. So he'll kind of dive in very deeply in that part. So what can I do with Connects Connecticut? It's this is to connect manufacturers in Connecticut with suppliers in Connecticut with a single, accurate, searchable supply chain database. It's to market your services, or actually your products, to other manufacturers, and to hopefully get new business opportunities. A lot of what has happened in Connecticut is that with COVID, there and the supply chain kind of snafus across the country, a lot of people didn't realize that they could get what they've been getting from across the country right down the street from them. So that's how this kind of came to be. You know, how do we kind of work within our state and, you know, do business within our state? So these are some of the things for buyers for large manufacturers as well as small and medium manufacturers. I won't review all of this. I'll be more than happy to send the PowerPoint presentation so you guys can have it. So you guys can have something, you know, to take away if you're talking to any manufacturers. But this is something that that we're working with. So what's the goodness about this one? Well, it's cost-free for all Connecticut manufacturers to use within the state for 2 years. Right now, we have a free forever promotion, and you can receive a lifetime of national access by signing up within the first 2 months of the launch. The launch has not happened yet. It's going to happen on February 1st. After that, an additional $500 a year to access the national network with unlimited user licenses per location. So Connects Connecticut is different from other platforms. It's free for all Connecticut manufacturers to use and $500 a year for the nationwide access. Direct connections with a few clicks. It builds long-term relationship with buyers and suppliers right in our own state. And if need be, it can also connect to other, you know, regional, like Massachusetts, New York. I know that Massachusetts is looking to jump on board with Connects, as also with New Jersey, but we're focusing in on, if it's made in Connecticut, we would like for you to buy it in Connecticut. Partnerships also with some other organization, including the National Association of Manufacturers, which is NAM, and other of the manufacturing extension partners that we have throughout the country. Connects Connecticut will help me help strengthen the supply chain by finding alternative suppliers. You can view your supply chain. You can take a look at what your risks are. There's a lot of features. You know, I'm totally new. Like I said, I've only been working with this for about 3 weeks. And actually, this is my start of my 3rd week. So, and we had a demo, and it was very easy to navigate. I've been kind of playing around with the demo myself. It's not live yet, but I think that it's going to be very quick and easy to use with the, with the members once they get on there. A lot of things that we have to be cognizant of, especially with our defense manufacturer, is data security. And this was designed with encrypted data. And so no one outside of your organization can see your confidential information without express permission. And in addition, the platform is constantly being updated to meet the latest cybersecurity standards. of NIS, as you know, which is part of the extension program. So these are some of our partnerships that we're working with. And it also includes in the future, both workforce and education, as you can tell. And I think that that's something that's really important, especially with your groups that you guys are working with, that are working with both students, inventors, you know, who's going to make my product? How do I get my name out there? How do we connect everybody? Hence the name Connects. So how do I get started? There is a website and it's not operational, but I am going to put in the link, I am going to put my email address. So if there's anybody that's interested in it, once we get everything up and running, I'll be happy if they send me an email. I'll be happy to send them the link and the how-tos, you know, how to log in. It's fairly easy to do that. I know that that we had the demonstration yesterday, and we expect that we're going to have early adapters to launch this in the next 2 days or so. So is Connects Connecticut, is there help with setup and optimizing my profile? Yes. With the permission of the manufacturer, we, meaning Concept, can come out and we can help you in figuring out, you know, how can I use this service to better market my product, better market my company, as well as, you know, also can I get supplies from Connecticut, and also hopefully in the very near future, we can also get other resources, including both education, research and development, and other resources of that nature. This is my contact information, and I will put this in the chat so people can send me a email if anybody has any further questions. And, you know, I'm open to questions. I didn't see anything on the chat, but I'll double check now to see if we have anything. Okay.
But no questions yet. So if you folks have any thoughts, stick them in chat. I did have one, Bernice, and that is kind of like the idea of people having access for life to the national database if they sign up quickly. What can we do to try to favor, if it's made here, make it in Connecticut? Will Connecticut be sort of the first gauntlet they have to go through, and if they don't find somebody there, then okay.
Yes, you know, that's what we've been hearing too from our manufacturers, because it saves them money in the long run. You know, if they shorten that supply chain, it is going to save them money in the long run. And you know, I mean, I tell the story about the situation that, you know, a company was going off across the country to get the same product that was made up the street from them. So that's something that we're trying to avoid, and we're trying to kind of bring people together, keep it in Connecticut. You know, Paul Lavoie, who is the Chief Manufacturing Officer, is supporting this, and you know, we're looking forward to making the matches, you know, and kind of connecting everybody with both resources as well as suppliers.
So when you talk about suppliers and the companies, is this accessible to the folks on this call? For example, let's say I'm an inventor and I'm designing a product, and I want to figure out, well, who can make it, where can it made, and I'm going to need to get cost on things. Is this something I can do through Connex?
Not at this time. You know, not at this time. I think that is the intent. I know that some of these other states that have, you know, a little bit more mature program, they have it. Michigan, for example, they have both workforce as well as R&D as one of the services that the program offers. And I think that, that is, I think, what we all strive for. But, at the moment, we're only just registering the Connecticut manufacturers.
Oh, so you have to be registered to be able to access.
Including Banshees.
I'm sorry?
And Brendan Gleeson.
You have to be registered to be able to.
Films that have helped us
Yes.
soar in box office in 2022.
Jason, can you mute yourself? Welcome, Jason.
Oh, okay.
Hit
Hi,
that
how are
mute button
you?
if you would.
Yeah,
Thank you.
let me see how do I get it? Hi,
It's a microphone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's a microphone in the lower left corner of your screen. Just click on
Okay.
that microphone. It says mute,
On the screen, huh?
lower left
Okay,
of your screen.
yes. On the screen.
You see a picture of a microphone and the word mute below it. Okay, you did it. Thanks.
I did it, but it's fine. Sorry, Jason.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to
Great.
unmute yourself when it's time to talk again.
Great. So this is not like a website anybody can go to. You have to register to be able to use it. You saying,
Yes.
Bernice?
At this time, that's correct.
Okay. So something I'd like you to consider is maybe you could put an association in as a, recognized group or something.
Yes, we are going to be, we are going to be doing that. We are currently working with a couple of associations to help their membership both get on board and also, they have features on there that can help them with like supply chain scouts, to help them, look for suppliers as well.
Right.
So there's a lot of features with that as well.
If we could register IACT, I think that would be useful because if you're inventing something, you've
Yes.
got to be cognizant of cost and is this feasible? Is there some place we can get this made? Thank you.
Yep.
Next up is Adam Rodriguez from Forge CT. Forge CT is a nonprofit 501c3 organization that connects startups with companies, forward-thinking manufacturers, design firms, and engineers. The mission is to help innovators navigate the journey from physical prototype through to commercialization and impact at scale. You can learn more at forgeimpact.org. Representing Forge is its vice president, Adam, has a background as a supply chain and operations professional and has worked in manufacturing for over 10 years. Starting on the shop floor as a machine operator, he worked his way up to an operations manager in a supply chain division of Lennox. Previously, he managed a grant to connect Western Massachusetts manufacturers with hardware startups. Adam, I see you have your slides up, so take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for inviting me here. And Doug, thank you so much for having me here, and to the IACT team. Thank you guys for your time today. As Mike mentioned, my name is Adam Rodriguez. I'm the vice president of Forge. I'm really excited to talk to you guys today because we just launched this operation in Connecticut. So I'd like to just bring you up to speed with what Forge is, what we do, some of the impacts we've had to date, and why this is important for Connecticut. Let's get to my next thing. Sorry, I'm having trouble moving slides here. There we go. All right, so Forge is a nonprofit, and we help startups and innovators that have physical prototypes prepare to manufacture and develop regional supply chains and scale their production. So really what we want to do is work with any innovators that have those prototypes, that they're looking for resources to not only make the prototypes, but also looking for resources to help them design for manufacturability, which is a big thing when you're trying to launch a product. And in Connecticut, we have thousands of manufacturers with hundreds of years of experience in launching products, combined experience that can help these innovators that have great concepts. So we're trying to match the innovator with the great concept, with the great mind of manufacturers, and hopefully help them scale together and bring those products to market. So, for those of you that don't know, startups with physical prototypes, they're solving some of the world's toughest problems. And that's in a lot of different areas, such as medical, climate, tech, robotics, advanced materials, just to name a few. But they have added cost and they have added challenges when they have a physical product. When you're making a physical innovation, it's far more capital intensive upfront than if you're building a software product. So being adequately prepared before engaging with suppliers and working with the right manufacturing partners for your goals is going to be essential to your success. I think that, I think right now, about 5 to 10% of startups that have a physical prototype that actually succeed and bring their products to market. So Forge is here to help. And I'll talk about some of those impacts that we've had with the startups that have come to us to put some perspective around that. So we talk about local production and why is it important? Not only is it important for the local economy and the region, but for the startup on the innovation side and the startup, there are some advantages such as you get to meet face to face to review your designs, discuss new strategies. You get that front row seat that when your first piece comes off the production line. So these are all things that if you automatically send your design files overseas that you might not have. And then also when you're sending your prototypes and your production runs overseas, there's not that confidence in a transparent business relation or IP protection, or even the quality goals that you have set. With a local partner, you can meet face to face, you can set all of those parameters and really have that comfort by working with somebody that's right down the road from you. It's really nice to see your first production run come off the line. And then you can actually, a lot of people think manufacturing overseas is the most cost efficient way to do things. And sometimes that's not necessarily the case. There's things like tariffs, shipping fees, late arrival, you have like time zone impacts, commercialization glitches. All of these things add up to costs that you're not thinking about when you're looking at that low quote that you receive from overseas. So these are considerations that Forge works with its startup innovators to educate them on before we even connect them with the manufacturing supply chain in the region. So these are some of the startups that we've worked with in Connecticut already. And, these startups started coming to us and asking to be connected to the Connecticut supply chain. They knew that there was this great manufacturing hub in Connecticut, but they didn't know how to access some of these manufacturers. For those of you that have never tried to bring a product to market or have never worked with a manufacturer before, it's not really as simple as just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I need this product made. There's a lot of things that need to happen beforehand. So we provide manufacturing readiness education and support. We then provide curated connections to right fit, innovation-friendly regional suppliers, and that reduces the barrier to scale and the technical risk. And so through this work, I'll show you some of the impacts that have happened, but there's just so many different advantages, not only for the innovator, but also for the manufacturer themselves to innovate within their organization. And a lot of manufacturers in Connecticut, we're starting to discover, are hungry to meet some of these innovators and are eager to launch new products in market that they may not have launched before. So as Mike had mentioned, we have been doing this work primarily in Massachusetts, and that's only because we've been funded primarily to do this in Massachusetts. And we've been doing this since 2015. And you can see we've served over 580 startups. And I'll take you back to what I was talking about before, that 5 to 10% survival rate. Well, of those 580 startups that we've worked with, 87% of them are still in operation today. And that speaks a lot to developing those relationships, some of those benefits to working with a local regional manufacturer to sit down, have them look at your design, make tweaks, see that product come off the line, and really be wise about spending some of that upfront capital. And of those 580 startups, 20% of them are now in full production. We worked with over 500 regional manufacturers. Now, again, most of those are in Massachusetts right now, But the exciting news is that now we're supported and funded to operate in Connecticut. And there's over 4,000 manufacturers in Connecticut. There's a very strong R&D presence. And so we're really excited to start building up a network of manufacturers in Connecticut and start making some of these connections, start delivering some of these economic impacts. So we're funded by the state of Connecticut and we're funded by CT Next. So we can deploy this programming in Connecticut and focus on Connecticut specifically. And because we're funded, there's never a cost for a startup or a manufacturer to work with us. So if you have an innovative product and you want to understand the best way to connect with the regional supply chain, come to see me at Forge, and it's never going to cost you anything. And on the reverse of that, if you're a manufacturer and you're eager to start working with innovators, come to us and we'll get you on our system and it never costs you anything. So as you can see, I've been pretty busy since starting this role. I've been in this role since October of 2022, so just a few months now. And I really wanted to thank Jack Crane, who you're about to hear from, and the Concept team for all their support, getting me connected with Connecticut manufacturers. I want to thank Mike, who's been instrumental on the innovation side of things, getting me connected with his scene at the college and university level, and understanding who's making things. And it sounds like Mike has some really exciting events coming up. I'm going to continue to work with Jack so that we can bring people together in both of these spaces, in innovation and manufacturing. So really eager to see you out at events, really eager to connect with all of you. And I'm going to leave you with my contact information here. So if you're an innovator or a startup, or just even somebody that has a prototype made from an empty toilet paper container and some duct tape in your garage, and you're wondering, can this be brought to market? Is there somebody in Connecticut that would work with me to bring my idea to life? Please contact me. I'd be happy to work with you. And if you're a manufacturer in Connecticut and you really want to work with some innovators, some really exciting solutions that are coming out of all these different spaces in medical, clean tech, robotics, please let me know. I'd love to get you involved into our network. And that's my thing today. Happy to take any questions.
Great. If you folks have questions, please put them in the chat. Questions yet? So we can swing back to both Bernice and Adam at the end. If you have questions for anyone, just put them in the chat if they occur to you. I just want to make a comment about something that was on one of Adam's slides, that he showed 3 companies in Connecticut that they're now working with. All 3 of those companies, Flow, Land Maverick, and Foot Traffic Stats, had entered business plan competitions that the Entrepreneurship Foundation ran and won funds that then they used to create that prototype, which you say, Adam, correctly, that you need before you can access Forge services? Yeah,
So at a very minimum, what we're looking for engagement with an innovator is a prototype.
Good.
Now, I talked about the toilet paper roll. One of the startups that I worked with when I first started doing this work had a prototype that was a toilet paper roll and duct tape, and they now have a product that's launched in market. So that's the minimum. Some funding is definitely helpful. There's a rare type of manufacturer that will work with an innovator because they're excited to work with innovators that don't have any funding yet. But for the most part, having some fun.
But the straight line I was looking for was great, because we're running a business plan competition for new products. It's a new product competition, and you can win money to create that prototype and then access all of these other services. It gives you a lot of credibility, plus some money. So we've got $25,000 in cash money and prizes for this new product competition here in Connecticut. Entries are due April 13. You can access the link to download the application in chat. So my point being that the 3 companies that he showed as examples that they're working with at Forge all entered our competition and won money and created prototypes and went on their merry way. So I think the proof is in that that pudding. Our third and final speakers is also with Constep, Jack Crane. Constep focuses on identifying opportunities for growth, improving productivity, and ensuring its clients remain competitive in an evolving markets. Their subject matter experts implement advanced business and technical solutions and workforce strategies to help small and medium-sized businesses reach their goals. You can learn more at constep.org. So representing Constep, besides Bernice, who you already heard from, Jack Crane, a strategic advisor at Constep. Jack provides manufacturers with guidance in strategic planning, marketing, new product development, lean activities, and programs related to fabrication. Additionally, Jack helps to match inventors and startups seeking manufacturing assistance, has authored or co-authored more than 50 papers on new products and materials, and holds more than 30 patents. Jack is a fellow of the American Society of Materials, the first recipient of the NIST/MEP Achievement Award, and recipient of the Leadership Award for Manufacturing Hall of Fame. So, take it away, Mr.
Okay.
Manufacturing.
Okay. I want to spend a little time explaining to those of you who are not fully aware of what Constep's mission is, so that you have an appreciation for what we do and how it might relate to some of the things that you're currently doing. You've heard Bernice talk about the connection for the supply chain, trying to meet a need of manufacturers and others that do not have adequate connections to local supply chains. And you've heard Adam talk about filling a need that this state certainly needs, and that is providing a much more continuous connection for inventors, how we can connect them with the manufacturing capabilities they need to produce a product. Now, obviously, there's also non-manufacturing needs in coming with a product, which includes things like marketing, IP, and other things, engineering assistance and what have you. And Adam and I are committed to taking the various islands of capability that exist in Connecticut, and there are many islands, and see if we can't build bridges among those islands so that an inventor can go to one spot and get all the help they need, produce the product, which includes manufacturing and so forth. So Constep's mandate comes initially from the Department of Commerce under the NIST mandate. That's the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which has a national network that's referred to as the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So Constep is the Connecticut version of the Department of Commerce National Partnership. For those of you who are old enough to remember, this is the analog, really, of the Agricultural Experiment Station, when the Department of Agriculture recognized that the farmers needed to get modernized in terms of modern methods of fertilization, soil treatment, and so forth, and developed a national network that still exists today. You probably have awareness that there is an ag experimental station in Connecticut that largely is doing work on Lyme disease, but you can still take your soil sample there and get it analyzed, even if you're not a farmer. Anyway, that concept is basically been analog for assistance to manufacturing. In Connecticut, we have 4,000 small manufacturers, and this version of small is under 500 employees. But it's true also that if you look at the breakdown in Connecticut small manufacturers, 50% of them are under 10 employees. So most of them are pretty small. 75% are under 25 and 90% are under 50. So the bulk of the 4,000 are really quite small. It's only about 400 that are in that regime of 50 to 200 employees or 50 to 500 employees. So many of them are small enough that they don't have the resources to do development work and things of that nature. And as a consequence, they need that kind of assistance to connect them in solving some of these problems. So that's the focus of Concept, is with the small manufacturer. And as Bernice had pointed out earlier, there is a number of services that we provide, anywhere from working with cybersecurity issues. We do gap analysis as well as filling in the gaps after they've been defined. We do work on continuous improvement, whether that means training a company to do value stream mapping and find out where their waste is, and then helping them brainstorm to find improvements and implement those improvements. It includes quality work, being ISO certified and things of that nature, but also all of the basics in providing a good quality system for manufacturing. We help with strategic planning. We also help with companies that are looking for marketing assistance, lead generation and things. We provide services in which a small manufacturer can develop new leads. So there's a wide range of activities, but what we're talking about here mostly today are some of these basic issues, like how do I get connected with the supply chain now that my foreign sources don't exist any longer, and I'd like to find a local source. And if we can't fill it in Connecticut, Bernice will tell you that we do have a national connection to Connex, which allows us to go to other states, but we're going to start with Connecticut, then move to the Northeast region, and then ultimately spread out through the 50 states. The same thing in the work that Adam's talked about. Well, we can bring you technology to help process improvement. We also can bring technology to help you develop your new product. And so Adam starts the process with your prototype, but what if you need new technology to enhance that prototype? We can provide that among various sources that we have, and if necessary, can go to international sources to bring you new technology to develop your product. We can also use that technology to help existing manufacturers improve their processes. So there's a whole range. And today, the whole concept that you've probably all heard, the new buzzword is IO4, Industry 4.0, in which what we're talking now is the marriage of digital technology with physical manufacturing. And today, in order for a manufacturer to be globally competitive, ultimately, they need to be able to carry out that kind of technology. And Concept is here to help them do that and to get that technology up to speed in what they do. I'm going to stop there. I think I've covered a pretty wide spectrum. And I'd be happy to answer specific questions that anybody has as to how they can get help in any of these areas. So Mike, I'm going to stop there and take questions, okay?
All right, thanks, Jack. If you have a question, post it in chat. I've got a couple. One is creating a prototype can be a challenge. How do people get help with that? Now, toss that up throw that as a toss-up. Doug Lyon and I actually put together a program at Fairfield U to help companies with that, to access resources at the university, not only physical resources and equipment, but graduate students as interns and faculty advisors. Difficulty is that it being in business is not something that universities do, but they do have the resources. And I'd like to find a way that we can harness that resource here in Connecticut, where we have billions of dollars invested. But and I want to pursue that, Doug, with you and others to see how we can fund that and figure it out. But in the
Yeah, we can
meantime,
talk about that, but
Jack,
Adam can respond to that. Adam, you want to talk about what?
Adam, you've been elected to answer.
This is the prototype question, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it depends on the prototype. So the first thing that comes to mind, if you're limited, you have a limited budget, and you just want to create a prototype, there's so many great maker spaces that would be happy to assist. I know that Makerspace CT and Makehaven are very open and eager to work with people that have ideas. They even have some raw materials on site if you're really strapped for money. But they also have members that just kind of nerd out on this stuff, right? So you bring in something, you say, I have this idea. It's probably not going to be too long before you got 3 people grabbing and saying, well, what if we do this? What if we do that? So that might be a place that I would start. Or, doing what you can at home in your garage. There's so many people that really just try to make a very basic prototype in their garage, just so people can see the concept, because getting that visual really helps others understand and really creates momentum. The third thing I would recommend is, whatever can be 3D printed is a really good starting ground for making something physical. It's really low cost. It's easy access. There's so many people that have 3D printing resources. A lot of the maker spaces, most maker spaces do. Even some of the smaller manufacturers have a 3D printer on site to help with prototyping. So that's really what comes to mind. Jack, I don't know if you'd add anything to that.
Well, there is also, I don't know I don't think you mentioned the proof of concept center at UConn.
No, I would think of that. You're talking about Joe's spot there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say it's kind of makerspace-ish, but he's there to guide you. Yep, that's a really good.
Those are some, but there's also Joe Luciani has what's called the proof of concept center at the tech park at Stores, and that's another source. But Mike, I'd be happy to talk to you offline about the possibility of providing a more robust capability in this area using some of the various other resources, okay?
Good, let's do it. Adam, I love your idea about the maker spaces. For all of you who haven't accessed them, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, it's like $50 to $100 a month, but how many months do you need? And I have to sign up for 5 years. Makehaven, I know is $35 for students or $50 otherwise, and they do very well. And Adam's absolutely right. There are people who do nerd out on this. You might walk in with this idea, and there are people there who's, wow, that's fascinating. I'd like to get involved and work with you on that. Just for the pure pleasure of helping to solve a difficult technical challenge. You can access a list of the maker spaces in Connecticut on my website, entrepreneurshipfoundation.org. And I posted a link to my site for the product competition, entrepreneurshipfoundation.org/product, which is under the resource section of my website. So if you click on resources at the website, scroll down, you'll find a list of incubators and maker spaces. I think it's under incubators. So good point. We do have some resources. We just need to know about them.
Right.
We have another question. Bob, does the product need to meet certain app qualifications besides have a prototype? For example, is a business plan required? Is there a limit on funding? You mentioned that it doesn't cost anything to work with Forge. I know you answered that for Bob, but can you answer it for the rest of us, Adam? Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. So when it comes to the prototype, what we would do is assess where you're at in that product development journey. If the prototype can really be anything, again, if it was just a 3D printed rendering of what the concept is, and it's very, very high level, we can take that, understand what are the different components that would make up that next level prototype. And then if the right fit, we would probably connect you with either a design firm or a product designer that we know in our network that would be willing to connect and talk about next level stages. Now we have a wide range of existing design firms, people that are willing to work with startups that have limited funding. And then we have, the Cadillac of design firms in our network as well that are there to work with people that, are ready to bring something to market. So with that, Forge really tries to bring in a supplier network for everyone. Most of these people, again, I do want to iterate, you do have to have some money for the most part. Again, there's a couple of friendlies that might work with you without funding if they're just intrigued and as Mike and I were saying, nerding out on something. But for the most part, you got to have a little bit of funding. And what we'll do is we'll figure out what you're trying to make, what you're funding, and then who are the best resources in our network to make those connections.
Thanks, Adam. Speaking of funding, Adam posted in the chat a event that's tomorrow. It says, if anyone is interested in attending a virtual Forge event tomorrow called Meeting the Financial Needs at Each Stage of Your Startup. So there's another source for that product prototyping resources you need. So good for you. You guys seem to be hitting the ground running here in Connecticut. Appreciate it. I have a couple of small questions. Some students need help with soldering. Anybody know of any resources to help people with soldering? I would say a makerspace.
Yeah,
They all have them.
first thing that comes to mind. Yeah.
And this
Mike, definitely, particularly makerspace in Hartford would be certainly willing to either contract somebody to do it or give you instruction or give you training. Okay.
I created a makerspace at Housatonic Community College last year in the Worth Center, and I set up a soldering station because I like soldering. You can create a lot of things if you have that kind of access, and I'm happy to teach anybody who signs up at the Worth Center at Housatonic on how to do it. I've done a lot of soldering in my time working for Ma Bell. And here's an obscure one. Can time be rented on a Gerber scientific cutting machine? That's a good one. Extra points if anybody can answer that one.
I can't specifically answer it, but if whoever put that in the chat wanted to set up time to talk a little bit more about the specifics, we could definitely do a search within our network to see if anything comes up specifically on that. But top of mind, I can't answer that.
So I would say, again, this sort of relates to that finance issue. There's another question related to finance. I can find a list of companies employing 30 to 200 people that would be advantaged by financing a family member who's in a business or CEO into ownership with the objective of growing the company, enabling the entrepreneur to monetize his investment. Was that from you, Moses? Or was that from Bill? I can't tell if the name is above or below the post.
It's not Moses.
Okay.
I sent you that soldering thing.
Oh, you did.
That sounds like it's coming from Bill's iPad.
Got it. All right. But again, it relates to financing, so come to Adam's event tomorrow. Learn
There you go.
all about financing, or talk to me. I know where the gold is buried. Angel Investor Club here. I ran a association of venture capitalists in Connecticut and New York City, and I can steer you in the right direction, at least. How do you find someone who can help set up an alternative trading system? I have no idea. That's from Doug. What did you mean by that, Doug?
Yeah, I'm back. So, right, alternative trading system, for example, Silvergate is a bank which also allows you to exchange your Bitcoin for Ethereum or Dogecoin or gold coin or whatever you like. So in effect, what you're doing is you're allowing someone to exchange securities, but not publicly traded companies. So I give you an example. Masterworks will allow you to sell shares in your Andy Warhol to somebody else who would like to have a few shares of the Andy Warhol and supply you with a liquidity event. However, in order to be able to do it, every single painting that they buy is registered as a separate security with the Security Exchange Corporation. So as a result, it's very cumbersome to have new securities that can be exchanged between various accredited investors. So that's an alternative trading system.
Good. So I'm glad you found a way to work that in. Back to manufacturing. At Gerber Scientific Machine, if there's any obscure piece of equipment, expensive piece of equipment that you'd like to access, I'd also recommend CCAT. I believe it's ccat.com or .org. CCAT, Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology. They're up in East Hartford, and they have a lot of whiz-bang equipment, but so do your universities. Like, I've taken a tour of the engineering lab at Fairfield University. They have millions of dollars worth of very high-tech equipment. So reach out to your local university and see what they have, and CCAT as well. We have a lot of resources in this state. Nobody knows where they are. Have to turn over some leaves here.
Hartford is actually where Gerber Scientific is, the manufacturer. And that equipment is excellent if there's very expensive pieces to be cut. For example, titanium parts for special aircraft or even regular aircraft. You don't want to screw up. It's bad enough if you screw up a sheet of plywood.
Right.
But when you're talking about $10,000 units, that's pretty nasty. And my question on the finding companies that are ripe for management successions is really a key issue in local employment and local continuance of companies, because typically when a guy gets older, 75, 80, 85, they want to retire, and the companies many times just deteriorate. You need somebody who knows the business to continue the company, either a CEO or sometimes there's a family member in the business. And I worked this with a company nearby here in Yorktown. They manufacture, they import loads of high-vis clothing from fire and police and construction workers, all mandated by the federal government. And they have a small unit that manufactures varsity jackets. And I'm thinking, could that be moved out and into Connecticut at a reasonable cost for floor space and for wages? And could there be a supply chain for leather and for wool that the things are made out of? I've been kind of researching this thing. Game Software is the name of the company, gamesoftware.com. And if that piece could be moved, they'd be willing to move it and do some employment in Connecticut. But typically, when I was first put onto this thing several years ago by one of the manufacturing extension partnerships in New York, and said, gee, could you help these guys out? They had a cash flow problem. I said, where are they? What do they do? And when he said they're in Yorktown, I said, my God, New York, the manufacturing? But Yorktown was only 15 minutes away. So I went over and visited, and things turned out good because they had got wrapped because they bought a second building just as the recession hit in 2008. But fortunately, bypassed that and sold the second business for twice what they bought it for, and were able to get their cash flow back.
Thanks, Bill. Is this something that Concept gets involved in, Jack, or not?
That was,
Companies?
that came over from, I forget the guy's name, from the New York Concept was across the river. Yeah, they're the ones that contacted me initially on the thing. They couldn't do anything with it.
You're on mute, Jack.
Jack?
I am familiar with the New York groups, but we're not about to move anything from New York to Connecticut until there's an announced demand. But if, Bill, if there was a demand for a particular capability, we're certainly willing to go to New York or any place else to make equipment. I think we'd work that out with Adam based on the demand, what it is that we need to have here, okay?
Well, the idea would be to cutting costs. If I get involved with it, I would want to see the manufacturing costs come down. And part of that would be using a Gerber machine to quickly cut wool and to quickly cut leather, rather than, you know, the sew and add technique. And
Thanks, Bill. Just check with CCAT. We're out of time, guys.
Sure.
I want to thank our speakers, and I'd like to turn the floor back semi-intact to Doug. Any closing remarks or announcements? Doug?
Well, first, I hope everyone will join me in thanking the speakers for what I think is a really useful and great presentation. Thanks very much,
Yeah.
everyone.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm gonna post the video on this after I've had a chance to run it by the speakers and make sure they're okay with it. And if there's
Yeah.
any editing to be done, I'll do a little bit of editing. And we'll have David Lieberstein do a presentation next month. I've got the presentation already set, and hopefully we'll be able to get something put together for a proper announcement with a little PR and a bio and an abstract, but we don't quite have that yet. So I'm working on it. So thanks a bunch, everyone, and have a good evening. Stay safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for
everybody.
inviting
Check the
me.
chat.
thank you.
Adam put CCAT's link in there, ccat.us.
You know, if you've got PowerPoints that you want me to post on the IACT website, just send them to me in an attachment. And if there's something you want me to put up there, Mike, I will do that as well.
I will. I'll
And
send
your
Doug
announcement.
the application for the new product competition as well, so you can find it there.
I'll put it all up on the IACT website. Thanks a bunch, everybody.
Doug.
Have a
Thanks,
good evening.
everybody. Thanks, Jack.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bernice.
Bye.
Thanks, Adam.
Bye.